Students and namaste everyone. I am Dhaval sir, and our today's topic is from your standard 8th literature part, unit number 9, the Great Stone Face part 1. So students, in the first lecture of this chapter, we have already discussed the introduction as well as the brief summary of this chapter. Okay, and in the second lecture of this chapter, I had started with the line by line explanation of this chapter, and as I had instructed you that this chapter is divided into two parts. So in the first part we had already completed the explanation of first part. Okay, and today we are going to complete this chapter with the starting of second part. So I'll start explaining you the second part. Okay, and today the chapter will be over, that is part 1 will be over. Okay, so let's begin. The years went on and Ernest grew to be a young man. Okay, so in the first part we had seen that uh, Ernest was a very young boy, and he his mother told him about the prophecy of the great stone face, and he was always very much interested in finding out who was the likeness, okay, or the resemblance of the great stone face. And then we saw about one of the son of valley whose name was Gather Gold, okay, who had come to the valley. Okay, and the people, they thought that he is the resemblance to the great stone face. But when the people, they gathered to see this man, that is the Gather Gold. Okay, at that time the people, they believed that he is the resemblance of the great stone face. But when Ernest saw him, he could not find any similarity between the great stone face. Okay, and he thought that he is not the resemblance, or he does not have any kind of likeness with the great stone face, and he was sad. Okay, so now what happens in the second part we will find out. Okay, so as it is written in the first line, the years went on and Ernest grew to be a young man. Now, from child, Ernest has uh, changed to young man. He attracted little notice from the inhabitants. Inhabitants means the people living in that valley. Okay, from the inhabitants of the valley, they saw nothing remarkable in his way of life, except that when the labor of the day was over, he still loved to gaze upon the great stone face. So here, I would like to say that he was a very simple person and living a very simple life. So he did not attract the attention of the people. He did not attract the means he was very less noticed by the people of that valley. Okay, and what he used to do is he used to work for the whole day, and at the end of the day, when his work was over and he was returning home, okay, he would stand and keep gazing. That means he would keep looking at the great stone face. Okay, and this thing was noticed by the people, that this young man always used to keep on gazing at the great stone face. Their idea was that this was a folly but pardonable. Okay, because Ernest was industrious. Industrious means very hardworking, kind, and neighborly. Alright, so the people, they found it very awkward or stupid to continuously keep on looking at the great stone face. Okay, but they thought that as the Ernest is living in the neighborhood, okay, and he was a very kind and hardworking fellow, so it can be excused. Pardonable means it can be excused. Okay, they did not know that the great stone face had become a teacher to him. Right, so the people, they didn't knew, okay, why he always used to look at the great stone face. Right, so in the first part itself we had learned that uh, Ernest considered the great stone face as his teacher, because from looking at the great stone face, by keeping it as an idol, okay, he learned a lot of things. Okay, and that the sentiment which was expressed in it would enlarge the young man's heart and fill it with deeper sympathies than other words. Okay, okay, right. So through this line, the writer is trying to say that it was just because of the feelings or the sentiments what Ernest had towards the great stone face, right? He was becoming a more a person with more wisdom, knowledge, sympathy, kindness, etc. Right? So, what he is writing that the sentiment which was expressed in it would enlarge the young man's heart and fill it with deeper sympathies. Sympathy means to feel sorrow for the other person. Okay, so with deeper sympathies than other hearts. That means, as compared to the other people, uh, Ernest, who used to look at the stone and had great feelings towards it. Okay, so this great stone face uh, helped Ernest learn wisdom, kindness, sympathy, etc. They did not know that from this would come a better wisdom than could be learned from books. Okay, neither did Ernest know that the thoughts which came to him naturally in the fields and at the fireside were of a higher tone than those which all men shared with him. Right? That means he was gaining something extra with the help of great stone face. Right? Because whenever he looked at the great stone face, he always got good ideas and thoughts. And as compared to the other people who did not bother to look at the great stone face. Okay, a simple soul, simple as when his mother first told him the old story, he the beheld means saw. So he saw the marvelous face looking down the valley and still wondered why its human likeness was so long in coming. That means he was continuously thinking about the person, that why is it taking such a long time for for the person to come, right? Who is the resemblance of the great stone face. By this time, poor Mr. Gathergold was dead and buried. His wealth, which was the body and spirit of his existence, had disappeared before his death. That means before he died, all his wealth was gone. Okay, he lost all his wealth. Since the melting away of his gold, it had been generally agreed that there was no great likeness, after all, between the ruined merchant and the majestic face upon the mountain. That means the people, they started believing again that no, Gathergold was not the resemblance of the great stone face. It so happened that the another son of the valley had become a soldier many years before. So now another person's story begins who was the son of the valley. Okay, he had become a soldier. After a great deal of hard fighting, he was now a famous commander. He was known on the battlefield by the name of Blood and Thunder. Okay, so he was very strong and powerful, so he was given the name as Blood and Thunder. Okay, old and tired now, he had lately expressed a desire to return to his native valley. That means that soldier or the commander, okay, who was working with the army, has now become very old, and he has the desire that he will spend his remaining life in the valley itself where he was born. Okay, the inhabitants, that means the people of that valley, his old neighbors, and their grown up children, prepared to welcome the renowned commander. Okay, they were prepared to welcome the renowned commander. It was being said that at last the likeness of the great stone face had actually appeared. That means now the people of Valley, they believed or they had a thought that this commander is actually the resemblance of the great stone face, and finally they were going to see the face of that person. Okay, great therefore was the excitement throughout the valley. That means the people throughout the valley, they were very much excited because they had thought that the person who is the commander, okay, is the resemblance of the great stone face. And many people who had never once thought of glancing at the great stone face now spent much time in gazing at it. That means the people of the valley who never bothered uh, of looking at the great stone face, now they also started spending their time in looking at the great stone face. Why? Because now they were also imagining that this commander or this person who is from the army is the resemblance or likeness of the great stone face. So they wanted to just imagine that how this person, that is the commander, might be looking. Okay, for the sake of knowing exactly how General Blood and Thunder looked. So that I've already explained, that they just kept on looking at the great stone face, and they just wanted to imagine how this commander or the general might be looking. On the day of the general's arrival, Ernest and all the other people of the valley left their work and proceeded to the spot. That means they left all their work and they went to the place where a great banquet had been prepared. That means the people feast and everything was prepared for the people of the valley, okay, for the welcome of the soldier. Soldiers stood on guard, flags waved, and the crowd roared. Okay, lots of people had gathered. Ernest was standing too far back to see Blood and Thunder's face. However, he could hear several voices. What Ernest heard? It's the same face, exactly, cried one man, dancing for joy. That means the people, they started speaking that this commander who has arrived is exactly the resemblance of the great stone face, right? You can see here in the picture, the person in the center is the commander, okay, and the people, they were very happy and joyful, and they had started dancing to find out that this commander is the resemblance of the great stone face. Further, wonderfully like it, that's a fact, replied another. And why not? Cried a third. He is the greatest man of this or any other age beyond a doubt. That means they were very sure that this commander is the resemblance or likeness of the great stone face. Okay. Ernest at last could see the general's face, and in the same glance to the side, he could also see the great stone face. Right here, you can see where the general is standing. From there, his face could also be seen to the people as well as of the great stone face. Okay. If there was such a likeness as the crowd proclaimed means said loudly or announced. That means to make it public. Ernest could not recognize it. That means the people, they were saying that the soldier or the general, okay, or the commander is the likeness of the great stone face. But when Ernest looked at his face, he did not find any kind of likeness. Okay, he didn't find any kind of likeness or similarity in the face between the great stone face and the commander. Further, fear not, Ernest said his heart, as if the great stone face was whispering to him, fear not, Ernest, he will come. That means he was very much disappointed again, and he felt in his heart, okay, that the great stone face is trying to tell him that don't be so sad or upset. uh, you don't worry, a time will come when the person who is my resemblance will come, and you will also come to know who it is. Okay, so that was it. So this is actually what Ernest was thinking, but he felt that the same thing is The same thing the great stone face is trying to tell him. Okay, so here the chapter gets over, and I will end my lecture over here. Okay, and I thank you everyone for watching my video.